So in today's video, we are going to be talking about how do you master email deliverability in 2025. So before we get into it, myself, I am Kevin Patrick, co-founder at Astris Partners. We have worked with over 50 B2B companies across multiple industries. In fact, when we first started, we had a major focus in life science, which means we were selling into pharma, into hospitals. And the reason why that's important is a lot of these type of businesses specifically are known to have incredibly strong firewalls and invest a lot in cybersecurity to make sure emails don't get through, especially unsolicited emails. So that the knowledge, or shall I say, once we end up getting incredible results, word of mouth referrals, we've now expanded and literally have worked across every industry and segment. And in 2024 alone, we booked 85% of the Fortune 500 companies. So again, the important piece of that is if we're able to get into the inbox, Google, Amazon, Walmart, Pfizer, etc., then we know a thing or two, or we'd like to think we know a thing or two about deliverability. And today, I want to really run you through what we are doing for our clients, and it'll be something that you might be able to learn one or two things that you can implement yourself. And we know that deliverability is a massive challenge. It's a big challenge right across the industry. B2B companies are struggling. That I read or saw was like average reply rates were like 0.5 to 0.7%. It's awful. It's awful. It's awful. Our campaigns, 5% we would say would be low. We've recently some campaigns that we've been running over the last few weeks, highs up to 25% reply rates. So it does make a difference. And whilst there's many moving parts to doing this successfully, the fundamentals of deliverability, the infrastructure, the foundation of doing cold email, it's about 80%. So let's get straight into it. So what do we mean by email deliverability? I think deliverability has become a little bit of a buzzword. People talk about it, but do they actually know what it means? So let's start there. So what we really mean by email deliverability is ensuring that the email that you have so well written is going to land in the inbox of the recipient. Simple as that. That is all we care about. Now, whether you do that using a tool at scale like Instantly, or whether you are manually writing those emails, the concept is still the same. It is landing in the inbox and ensuring that you're bypassing spam filters. And this is where I think a lot of companies get it wrong. I recently was on a client call, a new client that's come on board actually, and they were saying, "Oh, we've got this amazing link, and we just want to put that out, and we want to send it." And you'll see as I go through this that as an example, like it's those aspects that you need to know about and to avoid, because I'm telling you right now, and I will repeat later on, 2025, and to be fair, it has been this case since 2024 as well, but specifically in 2025, you don't want to be including links. You don't want to be having fancy signatures with your picture and numbers. All of these things can alert the email service providers. So that's what I want to cover today. Like, what are the things you can do, or what are the things you shouldn't be doing to ensure that your emails are going to land in the inbox? It's a very complex challenge. It's something that requires consistent testing, and we are a very, very great place to be able to talk about it because we're running hundreds and thousands of campaigns for clients, sending 100,000 millions of emails a month. So we can share those insights with you today. And the reason why you really have to take this into consideration, as I might have said before, is that 80%, this is the foundation of your house. You could have the nicest house in the world. You could have everything inside the house, but if your foundation is not good, it's not strong, the house is going to crumble down. Exact same thing here. You can spend 5 hours writing the best and most perfect email, but if it doesn't land in the inbox, there's absolutely no point. So you have to take this very, very seriously. So there are two pillars of deliverability that I want to sort of talk about today. So there is one which is around the infrastructure. So this is the technical foundation. And that's where I'm going to start with and what you should be aware of. And then the other side of it is then the actual content and the data. And to be honest, there'll be even more areas and elements and things to think about. We go in an even more sort of advanced topic, but at a high level for where most people, most B2B companies, most B2B leaders are, where they're struggling with deliverability, this will actually get you 90% of the way. So let's get going with infrastructure. So this is what we do at Astris. We know in 2025 from a data standpoint that you want to be setting up a lot of mailboxes and send lower number of emails per mailbox to get the volume and scale. If you compare that to 2021, I still remember where I would use Apollo. I would link it up in the background with SendGrid, and I was sending up to 5,000 emails. I might even push the boundary to 10,000 emails. And I'm sure like the stats that would have probably been affected and some aspects could have been improved, but the sophistication of where we're in 2025 now, especially with AI and email service providers using that and being able to train their models on good emails and bad emails, there's so many different things to be aware of. So what we need to try and do is we need to try and mimic normal behavior, i.e., is it natural for one mailbox to send 5,000, 10,000 emails a day? No. Is that going to be automated? Yes. Is that being written by someone who's genuinely trying to send a message that's going to be really relevant and related to someone? No. So the whole idea behind this is that by basically reversing it, where we're saying, actually, we're now going to have lots of mailboxes, and for each of those mailboxes, we're going to send, and we normally start at roughly around two emails per day. And then as we do the 2-week warm-up, and then as we're gradually increasing, we're making sure deliverability, we're ensure we're getting inbox placement, and then at that point we can try 3, we can go to 4. Then normally we would cap it at around 5, but you can experiment and sort of go up as well. So normally any new client, this is what we're setting up on average. We're doing across 10 domains, we're doing 500 mailboxes, we're doing as I said, the 2 emails and gradually increasing. And then we may have around sort of 200 or 300 mailboxes in reserve as well. That's always warming up, so that if we do find that certain mailboxes are getting burnt or they're not delivering, then we can quite quickly swap it around as well. So this is the Astris mailbox strategy, and everyone will have sort of slightly different variation around this, but the fundamental truth is that don't send from your main domain, and I'll talk about this in a bit in another slide. Don't send from your main domain, and you want to diversify and make sure you've got lots of mailboxes and reduce the number of mailboxes per mailbox. That's the theory that you need to be aware of here. Then you want to ensure that the process of the setup and the back end of each of those mailboxes, i.e. your SPF, DMARC, DKIM, as some of the major technical pieces that when you are setting up your boxes, you need to make sure that they are done rightly as well. Now, for some of it, that's that can be quite scary. We obviously set all of that up for our clients, and that's sort of what we do day in and out. But nowadays, if you look at dedicated email sending tools like Instantly or SmartLead, on the back end, you can purchase mailboxes that are fully set up and done for you. So they do take care of all that technical piece. You pay a domain cost, you pay a cost, it could be between $5 to $10 a month per mailbox, and then you can build those type of things out as well. So it's not that you have to do it all the time. If you wish to do it yourself and you're willing to do it across, potentially up to 500 mailboxes and so on, then absolutely fine. But they're obviously great platforms and tools, as they Instantly, SmartLead, dedicated cold email infrastructure tool like Mail do so as well, fully done for you. And I guess the other piece that I didn't I didn't mention on this is that, yes, you are doing the technical authentication at a mailbox level. And what you also want to ensure is that you have your domain redirected. So if you take the concept of Astris Partners and you then say the 10 plus domains that I had on the previous screen, that's saying 10 plus domains, and that allows us to, that's average around 50 mailboxes per domain. That's the maths. So those 10 domains would be something like Go Astris Partners, try Astris Partners, Astris Partners HQ, Team Astris Partners. Hopefully you get the idea. But when we're setting those domains up, we are then actually redirecting so that if someone does type in go astrispartners.com and they will do their own research, it will be forwarded and automatically will go to Astris Partners. It's a seamless experience for the person who's your customer, your prospect that is looking you up. So that is why you need to make sure you do that. The worst thing you can do is you send an email from go astrispartners.com and they go onto it and say, this website doesn't exist, or 404. I mean, that's immediate like shouting that this person is not genuine. Send them to a good quality landing page, good quality website. That's why the web presence is important, alongside obviously everything else that goes into your email. And even also your signature. That's why when we're working with clients, we generally tend to send emails from executives, because if people did look you up or type your name in and the company name in Google, which people do, they will see your LinkedIn, or more chance of seeing the LinkedIn service as the genuine person. Because again, 2025, we'll have to be careful. A lot of bad people out there who are manipulating systems. So we need to we need to come across genuine, and we need to show authentication on the technical side, on the domain side, and some of the other areas that I've talked about as well. So that's really, really important to remember. So I've already highlighted some of this already, but the domain and mailbox strategy is that your main domain, as I said previously, please never ever send from your main domain, your main company email. It's still happening in 2025. Of the 10 to 20 companies I speak with on a weekly basis, yes, I would say 80%, no, 90% are still sending from their main domains, and it's scary, because the likelihood of their main communication and worse being affected, because all of their emails are landing in spam, then maybe their domain and their IP address getting blacklisted because of they're sending all these emails out, and they're not going to get the results. And I'll tell you what the really sad thing behind this is then people like them are the found B2B leaders, and maybe some of you will be watching this, you'll be saying cold email is dead, cold email doesn't work. And your competitors who are doing it correctly, who are either educating themselves or working with partners like ourselves, are going to be taking market share, because it does work when you do it right. And the second piece around create outbound domains, I gave you the example of Astris Partners, Go Astris Partners, Team Astris Partners, Astris Partners HQ. That's very, very important. And then the final piece, and this is more so to do with the technology, which is why, again, always highly recommend utilizing a dedicated platform for cold outbound, i.e. like Instantly or SmartLead, and not to rely on tools like Apollo or say ZoomInfo, is that the more dedicated tools will implement technology to ensure that you have things like mailbox rotation, so that if emails are being marked or flagged, or in terms of other sort of protocols to ensure that the genuineness, the authentication, the timely manner of emails going out, the automatic mailbox rotation will really, really help out as well. So ensure that you have these three, the infrastructure part, and you'll be in a good place. Now, when I refer to the 500 mailboxes as the example, what we typically tend to do is around 80% of those mailboxes are going to be a 50-50 split of Google Workspace and sort of Microsoft Enterprise mailboxes. And then the remaining 20, we would use a private SMTP. So I mentioned earlier, like Mail Do So would potentially be 20% of our infrastructure per client, potentially. And the reason why we do this is for this piece here called provider matching. So again, when you're doing outbound as much as possible, and again, a lot of the technology that I mentioned earlier will be able to automate this, and you can, customize certain aspects. We at Astris Partners go sort of a few levels beyond this, but at a very high level, what this is suggesting is that if the recipient, if you are emailing me and I'm using a Google inbox, and my company's using a Google mailbox, then when you send your email from your tool or whatsoever, it's going to come from a Google mailbox. So the chances of the Google landing in Google is a lot higher than, let's say, if you were sending it from a Microsoft. Same concept with Microsoft, same concept with private SMTP. The reason why you need mailbox diversification as well is the algorithms are always changing, and it's not always going to be that Google to Google or Microsoft to Microsoft. Sometimes, and we've seen this in our data, sometimes it could be Google to Microsoft and not much Google to Google. And these billion-dollar companies, who know what they're doing, but the only thing we can go by is the data and the consistent testing. So mailbox diversification is very, 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 very crucial and very important. So again, appreciate this might seem like quite a lot. This is why, again, it's fundamental that you get the expert help and advice, or you educate yourself, and that's obviously what you're doing right now, but make sure that you are having these fundamentals in place to ensure that your outbound efforts are not going to go to waste. And then when your mailbox is all set up, let's assume that you've then got them all uploaded into something like Instantly. You want to then be running a minimum warm-up period of 2 weeks. It still surprised me again in 2025, companies might get to the point of saying, okay, we know that we shouldn't be using a main domain. They get a secondary or a burner domain, and then they get it, and then start sending emails straight away. It's like, well, again, think about the concept here. Brand new domain, brand new mailbox, no history, no reputation, sending emails. What do we think is going to happen? So that's why, again, inside of the tools I've mentioned, warm-ups are most of the time included for free, or you can obviously look at premium warm-ups. We at Astris have built a proprietary technology because there are, again, more advanced things to be aware of, like the quality of the warm-up pools, etc. So it's what we've ended up building in-house. But ultimately, the idea is that you want to ensure that the warm-up is done for a minimum of a 2-week period. Again, slightly more advanced, there are then things to look at, like, do you want those warm-ups to be just on weekdays, not weekends, because that, again, mimics more human behavior. There's a lot of things to think about, but at a very high level, you want to make sure it's a minimum of 2 weeks. The longer the warm-up, the better, but a minimum 2 weeks before you start doing outbound. As I mentioned, we've obviously built our own sort of dedicated warm-up pools, but there are premium warm-up providers. Obviously, you can have a look as well. I would say, depending on sort of where you're on your journey, like the warm-up pools of Instantly and Smart Lead are good enough. As you become more sophisticated, and the optimization that will be helpful at some point as well. Then you look at the other piece that's very, very important, is when we look at the gradual volume increase. And what do I mean by this? People will start by take the advice of sending one email a day, and then they might get some replies, and then they jump it up to like 10 emails a day, and then they might go to 25, and they might go to, and it's like, whoa, slowly ramp up your sending, because that again is more realistic. That is more, and you've got to think of it like an engine, or if you're running on a treadmill, you're going to warm up, right? You want to get your couple of minutes of your warm up, and then you go for a fast walk, and then to a jog, and then you start sprinting. You're not going to just do 2 week warm up, for example, and then you're going to sprint straight away. You want to sort of build yourself up. So making sure that you have that gradual volume increase will ensure that longevity and ensure that deliverability is going to be really, really strong. So we've covered the main things. Now, when we look at verified data quality, this is really, really important to be aware of. And what I mean by this is, you go through all the effort of getting your infrastructure set up correctly. Okay, so let's say you've done everything that I've mentioned. Now, let's say you then take Apollo, for example, you export a list from Apollo, you assume that they are valid email addresses. They are because in Apollo you have the option in the filter to click verified. So you're thinking, well, why would Apollo lie to me? I'm just going to export it and then I'm going to put it straight into a campaign. I can assure you about 30, sometimes 50% will not be valid. And therefore, what will happen, and one of the easiest ways for email service providers to see that you are someone that is sending unsolicited, that is not someone who knows what they're doing fundamentally, is where your bounce rate is very high. And that's why actually your bounce rates need to be ideally below 2%. We're aiming for sort of below 1%. And that is why you need to ensure that you verify your email address. I would always recommend sending only to valid emails. Your catch-alls, again, there are tools to validate catch-alls, but those maybe are not so advanced. Just stick your valid emails, ensuring that you have actually validated it. You have used a tool like the Bounce or Million Verifier. Make sure you go that process. What you don't want to do, and I see this all the time, a company will pull out, say, 1,000 records, and they only get like 300 or 400 valid emails. It's okay. You're much better off sending to those 300 or 400 valid emails than take the risk to sending to 800 or 900, because what will inevitably happen is you'll start sending the emails. A lot of them will get bounces. Your mailbox is going to get flagged and burnt. Domain then has potential impact, and then it's you're killing deliverability. So this is why this is all linked. That's why I wanted to cover those two pillars. The infrastructure is very important, but it's only as strong as the data, and then we talk about the messaging as well. So focus on verifying information. Don't rely on just one source of data. That's why, again, what we've built in-house is a data aggregation tool. So if it's not an Apollo, or if it's not verified on Apollo, we can look at another data source, and we've got 20 of those. That's before we even then deploy specific AI agents to look at even more detailed or researched email addresses. So we have a sort of saying in-house that if we can't find the email, no one else in the world is going to find the email. So it's important that you find good quality data, and not just from a okay, I'm reaching the right person, obviously, yes, but it's also to ensure that your deliverability is as strong as possible. So the other piece when it comes to we've talked about the data. Now when we actually look at the content, there are some really important things to be aware of. So first is the relevancy and personalization at scale, right? So the key word here actually is relevancy. You need to make sure that your emails that you are writing are relevant. You do not want to be doing the same message to 50 people inside of, let's assume you're going after a larger company. You don't want to be sending it to everyone. Or if it's a 20-person a company and you're sending it to the same message to 20 people, you do not want to be doing that. Again, a few reasons. It's not going to be relevant, which means your likelihood of spam rates are going to go up. ESPs nowadays are very, very clever. They will actually read, they can scan your email, they can see the relevancy of the email, the content, and if it's not going to be relevant, it immediately pushes it to spam. So again, all that effort, you've taken effort to set your infrastructure. In this example, you've taken the effort to set your infrastructure up, but if the email is not relevant, and therefore if it's not relevant, it either lacks the right type of personalization. And again, not that this video is specific on personalization, that's a whole different video coming out, is that you need to focus on the right personalization, right? First name, obviously, company name, okay, but when you go beyond that, you want to ensure that it actually is making sense to people. Just because someone went to a specific college, or someone went to or someone liked a recent post, it's not good enough. People are way aware now, and so are systems and tools. So really focusing on relevancy and answering the question. You need to be able to answer your question. Why you? Why now? Answer those questions comfortably, and you should be along the way. Avoiding spam triggers, and what I mean by that specifically, spam words. You can use tools like Mail Meteor. You can even use within GPT. There will be ways to look at a message and say, hey, remove or replace any potential spam words. Now, there are obviously obvious spams like, guaranteed or free or excessive. I mean, we know what spam looks like, so we can do our best to avoid that. But there is also a contextual part to it as well. So it's ensuring that what you're saying comes across genuine, that, if you were to meet someone in a live environment, what are you going to say to them? You're not going to say, hey, I'll do all this work for you for free. I mean, you might do, who knows, but you need to imagine this is someone who doesn't know you. So you want to ensure that the messaging that is coming across, genuine, authentic, and you want to be shouting, free, get this free thing here, get this guaranteed thing here. And on top of the spam triggers, it's also our human psychological triggers as well. We look at something like that, yeah, that's too good to be true. That's just a scam. I'm not going to fall for it. So again, there's the technical side and there's the psychological side to be aware as well. I mentioned this earlier around plain text. You want to only be sending plain text emails. Please don't send HTML emails when you're doing cold outbound. Don't include links. Don't put anything fancy in your signature. Don't include numbers. Don't link a video because you think it's the best video in the world. No, like a link is a link, and that will set spam filters. Companies are now, we're seeing companies of all sizes and shapes and sizes are now recommending that if they have got an IT in-house, or if they're being a separate IT company that are supporting them, they're being recommended not to allow anything. Even internally, they're saying if your colleague sends you something, message them on Slack or Teams, say, hey, did you send me something? Because all it takes is one little click and things can go wrong. So stick to plain text and people will be, you'll be in a much better place when you do that. And finally, there is something called SpinTax. So SpinTax implementation is whereby you want to create variation. Okay, now if you take the concept of sending the same email lots and lots of times, again, that you can assume is going to cause a clever system to be aware, actually this is going out, or the same type of email is being sent to lots of people in my company at the same time. So, well, obviously that's why would someone be sending the same message over and over again? So immediately that can set off the spam filters. It can, trigger different things. So SpinTax, and this will vary depending on which platform etc. you use, but mostly it tends to be like the squiggly brackets. So if you take the squiggly bracket, so a perfect example is hi. So imagine say, hi, first name, hi, Kevin, hi, Joe, hi, some other name. So if you then put the SpinTax, which would be the squiggly brackets, it would be hi, then hey, the next word would be hello, the next word would be greetings, for example. Then what it does is when the emails go out, they are randomized. So you get hi, first name, hello, first name. So again, you can then start to do this on words in the body, in sentences, and it creates greater variation. Most important thing you do, and again, you can do this again using AI. There's nothing wrong with it, but you just want to make sure that the natural language is still maintained, so that your message in the context of what you initially had put out is still being conveyed despite of the variations. So be sure that what you're sending and the context and the data and everything we talked about, that is all as relevant and as high quality as possible, because it all goes hand in hand. This isn't if I just set my infrastructure correctly, everything else is going to be fine. No, that is a big part of it, but you need to make sure that the maintenance, the ongoing piece of the data and copy stays at that high level as well. So finally, what I suggest that you look at doing next is, if you are not getting results and you are thinking why that might be, it could very well be your infrastructure. So I would say look at where you are at the moment, and if you're not happy and you're not doing some or all of the things I've talked about, definitely try and implement that. You want to be, and I am big believer that you want to be utilizing specific tools. You don't want to be using sort of all-in-one tools as much as you can avoid it, and go for tools that are very specific to the outcome that you're hoping for. So i.e., outbound specific tools, GTM tools. I mentioned sort of Instantly and Smart Lead. Again, a tool like Instantly just offers everything all in one, right? You can set up your mailboxes, you can even get leads there, you can send emails, but it is built for the cold outbound space. So that's going to be a lot better for you. Obviously, I'm going to have a link to my calendar down below. So if you would like to connect and talk about your particular scenario and see how we may be able to support, then you're welcome to do that, and more than happy to see how we could support with your outbound efforts. And last but not least, you've got this far because you are interested in this subject, you are learning, you are looking to improve. Please subscribe to our channel and look at obviously some other great people in the space that are trying to share the genuine and authentic knowledge that is so badly needed in this space to make sure that the B2B companies don't say that cold email is dead. Thanks for watching.